Piracy, YouTube, the quartering, and the future of content creation. You're live with the guy Monday through Friday. I got my beautiful producer, Nat, here.
Hello.
We have a complimentary show that goes on at nighttime with this. So if you're into politics, come check us out Monday through Friday every night. Okay, I'm going to front load the news articles today, and then we'll go into the bigger clipped articles I've been kind of doing at the front of the show. We're now going to try to do at the back of the show. And it looks like my sound's working there. Okay, let's go into the first story of the day here. And this was about a Disney cruise, actually.
So from CNN Travel, 2 people rescued after going overboard on Disney cruise ship.
Yeah, and this is pretty crazy. If you're going to go overboard on any kind of cruise ship, I'm thinking Disney is probably one of the better to go overboard because there's so many kids on Disney cruises. They must be really prepared for somebody to actually fall in the water.
And
so,
yeah.
Okay, let's read some of the article here.
So 2 guests said to be a father and his young daughter have been rescued by crew after going into the water while out overboard on Disney Dream cruise ship as it returned from a voyage around the Bahamas. Disney confirmed that the rescue happened on June 29, saying that both were returned to the ship within minutes of entering the water. Social media posts from customers on board reported the pair were a father and his young daughter. The father is said to have jumped in to rescue his daughter after she fell from the ship. It's unclear how she ended up overboard.
Well, and good on the father for actually jumping in and trying to rescue his daughter. So many people fall over on these cruise ships. People are unaware of this. This is a major problem. A cruise line like Disney is probably extra prepared, like I said, because they have so many kids on the ship. But in general, there's a lot of drinking going on some of these party ships and things like this. So people are constantly falling in the water on these things.
But isn't the advice usually to not, like if you see someone go overboard, don't go after them because then it becomes a 2-person rescue instead of a one-person rescue?
When it's a small daughter who may or may not know how to swim and is not going to swim very good in the ocean, like you jump in. If that was my kid, I would be jumping in as well. It's a different thing if it's your wife or something.
So the crew aboard the Disney Dream swiftly rescued 2 guests from the water. Disney said in a statement to CNN, "We commend our crew members for their exceptional skills and prompt actions, which ensured the safe return of both guests to the ship within minutes. We are committed to the safety and well-being of our guests, and this incident highlights the effectiveness of our safety protocols." The ship was returned to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, after a four-night cruise in the Bahamas.
Oh, I used to live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So look at that. Yeah, there is a lot of everywhere I seem to have lived. There's like a lot of cruise ships and things. Vancouver, we lived right behind the place where they dock. So you ended up learning all the different whistles for all the different cruise ships.
Yes, all the horn calls.
All the horn calls. Every cruise ship has a different horn call. Disney has a very specific one. Okay, let's continue to go here.
So passengers took to social media to share their videos of the boat rescue. We heard an MOB, man overboard, call over the ship's speaker. A little girl had fallen into the water and the father jumped in after to save her. The passenger overboard incidents are relatively rare on cruise ships. Tales of rescue and survival can be even more extraordinary.
They're not as rare as you would like to think or this article would have you believe. They happen far more often, and people very often aren't rescued because the boat is moving so fast, especially if you fall over at night. At nighttime, it's mainly drinkers and things like this that are drunk and kind of accidentally fall over trying to take selfies and pictures and things like this. Okay, let's go into the next story here. And I believe...
I mean, luckily, Disney Cruise Line is one of the few things that are going kind of okay for Disney right now. 2 people went overboard, but in general, people still receive and have a good view of Disney cruise ship, and it was still, I think, financially doing pretty well, even though the newer ships that they're bringing on are not as detail oriented and as well produced regarding the IP and how things are done as the older ones. That's the commentary I've been seeing.
Well, it sounds like these cruise ships may be going into the rest of their actual Disney parks. They started off strong and slowly going to fade to oblivion. I do know with Bluey, they licensed Bluey only, they had limited licensing. One of the licenses they had was for on their cruise ships. So if you are on a Disney cruise, you can see Bluey.
I believe it's coming on, I think it was this summer, actually.
Okay, let's move to the next story here, and that's going to be Apple.
So from Variety, Apple finally has a box office hit with F1. What's next for the studio's movie strategy?
Okay, yeah, and Apple had been struggling to make a major blockbuster hit, but I do see a lot of things in production from Apple because I cover so much pop culture news, upcoming movies, what's in production. I keep seeing Apple come up, and it seems like they are starting to learn. There were some growing pains, but they seem to start, maybe they're getting their footing here, especially with F1. But even going forward from F1, I'm going to expect to see Apple be a major player in the movie industry here. Let's go into this.
Champagne showers, a staple of Formula One races, may be reserved for the racetrack, but the mood at Apple was certainly celebratory over the weekend as the big budget F1 delivered the studio its first box office hit. The film, starring Brad Pitt, as a has-been Formula One driver who gets coerced out of retirement, generated $57 million domestically and $146.3 million in its opening weekend. Though F1 costs roughly $250 million to produce and requires several laps around the track to turn a theatrical profit, these initial ticket sales are encouraging for an original adult-skewed tentpole.
Yeah, and I think this movie is definitely going to make back its budget. I don't know how much profit on top of that because the marketing was huge on this. Also, the cost of making the movie was big. They did have a lot of big sponsors for this, so they may have had alternative forms of funding and things like this. That would be nice, but just the fact that they can break even with this movie is more than enough for Apple. I think this is a big tentpole movie and really puts Apple on the map of movie making.
And the fact that they were able to get it into theaters and make it a more of an event style movie.
Yeah, we're now seeing Amazon get major distribution worldwide. Apple is also getting major distribution. So these alternative studios that are coming from tech companies and things like this that have a lot of investment money are now getting distribution. So these are starting to become major players in the industry here.
And I also think it's good they're trying to go into theaters, because for a while there, theaters were really scared of, losing customers' profit and even studios wanting to put their movies in them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happened to theaters here. Now, a lot of people are industry insiders are saying theaters are dying, this and that. I just think they're going to have to change the model. And I really think these tech players, as the streaming wars continue to happen and they start consolidating these streaming services and things like this that are primarily owned by these tech companies like Apple, like Amazon, things like this, they're going to start building their own theaters, and it's going to be exclusive content in which they make. So it's going to be almost a monopolization of theaters. At least that's just kind of what I'm foreseeing for some theaters in the future. Right now, there is a major monopolization between major studios and getting their theatrical releases into theaters. It's very hard for independent films to get into theaters. So I think the next logical step would be a consolidation of streaming and expansion of Apple Studios and studios like Amazon eventually building their own theaters when they have enough content to fill those theaters full time. That's kind of what I see going on. Okay, let's go into the next story here. And yep.
So from Variety, James Gunn says Adria Arjona would be a great Wonder Woman.
And I kind of disagree with this. I don't like this play at all. I did like Gal Gadot in this role. I didn't necessarily always like Gal Gadot. I think her accent kind of ruins a lot of roles she has, especially in the recent movie we watched. What was that?
Snow White.
Yeah, Snow White. Oh my God. She was horrible in that. I'm not going to mix my words, but in Wonder Woman, the role was kind of made for her. She used to be in the military. She's very Amazonian, very tall, but still looks good. She's believable in the role. She's one of the few believable actresses in Hollywood that you can believe in a role like that. I think she's good in that role. I think people like her in that role. To try to replace her with somebody like this, she's a pretty girl. She's got a pretty face, but is she going to be believable as an ass kicker, as a girl boss, I guess you could say? There's not so much backlash with Gal Gadot playing that girl boss role. Anybody else that seems to be having that, even in Megan 2.0, where they put a girl doll in the role, there's backlash. So I think any of these girl boss movies are going to do horrible at the theater. The best you can really hope to do is Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Don't get rid of her. Do not get rid of her. James Gunn is making bad decisions with this Superman franchise. They're trying to replace Gal Gadot. They replaced Henry
Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Cavill.
I always have trouble saying his name, but I think Henry Cavill.
Cavill.
Henry. How do we go ahead?
Henry Cavill.
Okay. Whatever she said. He was the perfect Superman. When he first took the role, he was a bit of an unknown. People didn't really warm up to him until very recently when they kind of cut him from these movies. He really endeared himself to the mainstream audiences through sticking up for Warhammer, other IPs, things like this. He had dated Gina Carano. So I think as Superman now, audiences would really flock to him, and this would have been his time. I almost think if this new Superman isn't a overwhelming success, bring him back. Bring Henry Cavill back, and don't say it. Bring him back, and I think fans will be more endeared to him as Superman than any other actor in the modern age.
And Adria Arjona is a Nepo baby. She's Alejandro Arjona? Actor, not an actor, a singer. She's his daughter. And I think, for example, if they wanted to bring on a Latina, because clearly that's what he's trying to do.
This is one role you could bring a Latina in because she does have black hair, so it wouldn't be so far of a stretch.
I would say Asa Gonzalez would be a better pick if they wanted to. Another Mexican actress, but she might be too small. But honestly, my better pick for a Wonder Woman, and she's a bit older now. But if you were an early 2010s TV watcher and you watched The OC, you'll remember the iconic scene of Rachel Bilson or Summer as Wonder Woman, and I think she actually would fit the role a lot better if she was a bit younger still. But
yeah, I don't even know why they're trying to think of recasting. Gal Gadot's fine for the role.
But I feel like she's aging out a bit.
She's as good as you're going to get right now, and she's not aged out.
Not to sound mean, but
she's not aged out. Like in Snow White, they made her look like a villain. They made her look older. I don't think so. Wonder Woman, she's still perfect for the role.
But she doesn't know how to act.
I'm not saying she's not a good actor, but for that role, that's as good as you're going to get.
Do you want me to read into it?
Yeah, you can read a little bit into it there.
DC Studios head James Gunn may have revealed his first choice to play Wonder Woman. In a recent interview with Extra, the Guardians of the Galaxy director discussed Hitman star Adria Arjona and teased where he sees her fitting into his revamped DC universe. I follow Adria on Instagram, but everybody came out and thought he just followed her. That means she's Wonder Woman. Gunn shared, she'd be a great Wonder Woman, by the way. She was in a movie I made 7 years ago. He added, we were friends and have known each other since that time. I followed her then. I didn't just follow her.
Yeah, and James Gunn, there was a lot of hype around him. He's not completely destroying the Marvel Universe at this point, but they need groundbreaking hits in order to bring this IP, the Marvel IP, back from the dead. And just comic book movies in general, whether it's DC or Marvel, to bring these things back from the dead. People are kind of over comic book movies. They're going to have to take risks. This is not the direction I see actually resurrecting comic book movies right now. Something like The Joker, I said it the other day on Culture Casino. They really took a risk with that movie. It was an independent. Yeah, it was kind of a remake of Taxi Driver, but a lot of people hadn't seen Taxi Driver in this era. It was gritty. It was raw. They had a good actor that can really carry a film from a character development stance. I liked it. And then they ruined it when they went and made it a musical. So I think they need to take more risks like that. Just make one-off really good movies. Stop worrying about everything else. Just worry about good filmmaking. Disney needs to do the same with their traditional IPs. They're so worried about the entire universe, all the toys, all the rides. Make good movies and the rides and everything will come later. They need to get the fans back.
Yes. Oh, and I said she's a Nepo baby. I don't know why I said Alejandro Arjona. It's Ricardo Arjona, the singer, who I actually used to listen to. So I don't know why I mixed that up.
Okay, let's go into the next article here if we can.
Inside Elio's catastrophic path, America Ferrera's exit, director change, and erasure of queer themes from The Hollywood Reporter.
Oh, God. And we've been talking about Elio, and it is a huge flop. This is just signaling bad things for Disney, for Pixar, for everything that's animated right now that's coming out is just pretty horrible. Let's read into this. Elio is the biggest dud of all these modern day LGBTQ style animation movies.
Those who worked at Pixar while its latest film release, Elio, was in production, were delighted by footage they saw roughly 2 years ago. I'm sure they were.
Oh, yeah. 2 years ago, we were in the woke era of, total politics.
Among the moments cited as favorites by those at the animation studio at the time included a sequence in which the titular boy collected trash on a beach and turned it into homemade apparel that included a pink tank top. The movie's team would refer to Elio showing this off to a hermit crab as his trashion show. But if you bought a ticket to Elio and don't remember seeing this, it's not that you chose the wrong time to refill your soda. According to multiple insiders who spoke to The Hollywood Reporter, Elio was initially portrayed as a queer-coded character, reflecting original director Adrian Molina's identity as an openly gay filmmaker. Other sources say that Molina did not intend the film to be a coming-out story, as the character is 11. But either way, I mean, I'd love that. But either way, this characterization gradually faded away throughout the production process as Elio became more masculine. Following, I don't think that's what people have said.
It's kind of understandable why this movie is doing so bad. It was meant to be a queer movie, maybe not a coming out queer movie, but to make young kids, which they've been targeting in elementary schools and preschool, even as early as preschools with these books we cover on our other show. And it was slowly changed because they were scared of the backlash. And now we're really moving into a cultural transition where any hint of the stuff they probably had left in the movie, they try to get it out on the editing board. So it's been changed so many times, it probably lost its essence, and its original essence wouldn't have appealed to mainstream audiences anyway. Mm-hmm. So maybe Elio is actually making more money than it would if it was left in its original form, because in its original form, it may have had so much backlash, it would have completely canceled Pixar along with it. The fact that Elio is getting not the best box office, but it's isolated to Elio's box offices may be a good thing. It's not having necessarily the biggest bad rub on Pixar right now. So,
and I think, like you said, the foundation was different. So even if they try to cut around it, the original badness that was in it will still be there. And the fact that Pixar, people that worked at Pixar are coming out and saying, oh, this is bad that they didn't include it, shows what the culture and what the direction that they wanted to be taking Pixar in is.
Yeah, and this is probably just the first step of a series of movies. They always plan things in a series and how they're interconnected. So a lot of things are probably being changed, rewrote, and recut. A lot of things are on the cutting room floor or the writer's script floor right now. Okay, let's go into the next article here. And what do we have?
So from Entertainment Weekly, country singer Gavin Adcock slams Beyonce's Cowboy Carter for topping country charts. That S ain't country. I really don't believe her album should be labeled as country music, the singer argued in a follow-up video. It doesn't sound country. It doesn't feel country.
Yeah, and I completely agree. We've actually talked about this a lot. When she won the first award for this, there was rumors that Jay-Z had bought the award, and they were really trying to put her up in the country scene because they knew that the culture was changing away from hip-hop and more into culture. We see that trend continuing to happen. She's just not believable in this role. This is completely manufactured. I'm glad people are starting to call her out within the industry. We've been calling her out, and alternative media called her out from day one. The mainstream media is so cucked by Jay-Z and Beyonce that they don't seem to say a word about this.
And Destiny's Child I used to get, but I never got Beyonce. Like, I don't understand the hype around her. Yes, like, her music is okay, but it's not any better than any other of the dribble that we keep hearing recently.
Well, I thought Beyonce, after Destiny's Child and things like that, was actually good. But she had great legendary producers. She had Kanye West, Jay-Z. She had really good beats. She had a $1 million team behind her, so of course it was going to be good. You could have interchanged her with pretty much anybody if they had that kind of platform and those kind of people behind her. They could have manufactured a star out of nothing. She just happened to be the one they manufactured.
But I never understood the hype.
Yeah, I didn't mind a lot of her music. I thought it was fine. But it's overly manufactured because she was so manufactured with big producers, big songwriters into hip hop. I thought they could do the exact same thing in the country, and it's not going to happen. She's too identifiable with hip hop and pop. This transition to country is just ridiculous. And
I mean, if we want to get into conspiracy theories, there was another upcoming singer that I think would have been even better, and she passed away in a plane crash. Yeah. Aliyah.
Okay, let's go into this article a little bit. Yeah.
Country singer Gavin Adcock has unleashed the fury of the Beehive. Ugh. Again, I don't get the hype. The four-leaf clover singer.
Beehive?
It's her fans, the Beehive.
Oh, I've never heard that.
The
Okay.
The four-leaf clover singer recently incited the rage of Beyonce's dedicated fan base as the latest country artist to take issue with her Grammy-winning record, Cowboy Carter. In fan-recorded footage of a recent concert, Adcock lamented his album, My Own Worst Enemy, being fourth place at an Apple Music Country's country album charts. While ranting about the albums that placed ahead of his, he had a point one complained, one of them, Beyonce's, you can tell we're coming for her effing ass. That ass ain't country music, and it ain't ever been country music, and it ain't gonna be country music.
Yeah, she's a witch, and now she's trying to take over country, but her spell that she's casting ain't working on the country crowd.
Adcock punctuated his point by raising his bottle in the air and pointing at the cheering crowd. Signaling his band, he continued, we're about to play y'all some southern effing rock. Y'all can't
Even
talk
this
southern.
picture on the horse just looks so overly manufactured. I mean, country people do not want this kind of overly manufactured dribble. This is the stuff like, this looks like very much an image from a Kanye West video or something like that. That works in hip hop, works in pop, things like that. Works with the image that she had. This is not going to work in country. They want raw, gritty. They want, oh God, what's his name that with the red beard?
No idea.
That was on Joe Rogan?
I don't remember.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, Owen, not Owen.
Oliver Anthony.
That one.
Oliver Anthony, he's really just going out to a barnyard in the middle of nowhere, bringing band members out there, recording a song over the weekend, really shooting it really gritty and raw. It's not over manufactured. If there's any echoes in the room, they just kind of leave it in there. That's what country is. This is not country.
And it's supposed to have like, well, I don't know if at the beginning, but working class roots, people that work like that work and do actual jobs. And with Beyonce, it's all just, it doesn't feel real because it has no soul, funnily enough. And it's all manufactured, as you said.
100% completely.
And
I would say, like, yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
After days of his comments circulating social media, Adcock addressed the viral clip in a June 30 Instagram post, doubling down on his sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and clear this up, he began. When I was a little kid, my mama was blasting some Beyonce in the car. I've heard a ton of Beyonce songs and I actually remember her Super Bowl halftime show being pretty kick-ass back in the day, but I really don't believe her album should be labeled as country music. And it was like a last-ditch attempt, I think, for the industry to keep pushing her onto people.
Oh, yeah. There's no reason not to just keep her in pop and hip hop. There was no reason to change her out of that genre. She's ruined whatever little credibility she had within the industry that she built over decades. It's now being completely trashed. Like, people that seen her in this newest iteration of a shapeshifter are not going to believe this crap. So she's not going to be able to shapeshift back and still have believability.
Adcock continued, it doesn't sound like country, it doesn't feel like country, and I just don't think that people that have dedicated their whole lives to this genre and this lifestyle should have to compete or watch that album just stay at the top just because it's Beyonce. Adcock also offered a sly reference to the backlash on his Instagram stories, posting a photo of a shirt that read, maybe I am the drama, with another that read, if you find me offensive, then I suggest you quit finding me. He added 3 B emojis to the post.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, he's going to get...
Because, yeah, apparently the fans went after him because he...
Well, I think most of Beyonce's fans, or a large portion of Beyonce's fans, are bots. And I think she comes from the pedigree of upper echelons within hip hop where they manufacture stars. And they manufacture stars, and not just in hip hop, but the music industry in general. When a star is as big as Beyonce, the record label will buy 10 million copies of the album just to get the person on the billboards and have this artificial snowball effect. So eventually the album will start selling on its own. I used to work in the music industry for a very brief period of time right after high school, and it is a devilish industry. A lot of this stuff is manufactured, and people don't want this manufactured crap anymore. We're even seeing this happen on YouTube. That people want less editing, more just raw, real talk, things like this. It's happening all over media in all kinds of forms. Okay, let's go into Earthquake and Bill Burr.
So from Deadline, Earthquake teams with fellow comedian Bill Burr for multi-camera comedy in works at Fox.
Yeah, and I hope Earthquake doesn't get canceled for teaming with Bill Burr because Bill Burr can't keep his mouth shut about politics. And man, let's go into the article a little bit. But yeah, I have not been impressed with Bill Burr lately.
Actor-comedian Earthquake is set to star in a multi-camera comedy based on his life, which is in development at Fox with Bill Burr's North Hill Productions and 3 Arts Entertainment. No writer has been set yet for the project, titled Earthquake, which is in consideration for the 26-27 season. It's part of Fox's push into multi-camera comedy, and while the network has been open to occasionally doing pilots and presentations on the comedy side, Earthquake would be following a script-to-series development track.
Yeah, the issue that I would have with this is they're going to go on a publicity tour about this. And Bill Burr talks politics so much, interviewers are most likely going to ask him political questions, and he's not going to know how to keep his mouth shut about it. At least that's my guess, which may have a bad rub on his fellow comedian here. Bill Burr needs to stay away from politics. He is a funny guy and can be, but he mixes politics in way too much. The same thing is happening in Hollywood. People do not want politics mixed with their movies, their comedy, or other things like that.
But isn't comedy, and a lot of good comedy, supposed to be political and highlight what's going on in the world?
Yeah, that may have once been true, but not anymore. We had the era of Jon Stewart. That era is now over. So.
But I think a lot of people that are doing very political stuff are doing pretty good at it.
Well, you tell me who's doing political stuff, and I'll tell you who's getting canceled right now. Because
but I mean, that's what should change.
He's a leftist. Every single leftist that's speaking politics right now is either being canceled or being silenced because people are scared of the rub.
But he was teetering on the edge, wasn't he, at one point, between like lefty and then more
Bill Burr?
right-wingy things? Yeah.
Oh no, he's always been firmly on the left-hand side. Yeah, I don't know if you missed all the stories that we've been covering him over the past year, but
I don't know if we've covered him before.
Oh, we have in depth.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the next story here, and that's going to be the Supreme Court.
So from Variety, Supreme Court to take on major labels' billion-dollar copyright case against Cox.
Okay, let's go into this article a little bit and see what's going on here.
The U.S. Supreme Court announced it will take on a landmark copyright case between Cox Communications and the music industry that has been bouncing between courts since 2018. The suit was originally brought against Cox in 2018 by a group of over 50 music companies, including major labels Universal, Warner, and Sony, and their publishing arms over whether Cox was allowing its internet customers to download music illegally.
Okay, and let's keep going.
A jury originally found in favor of the music companies in 2019, awarding them $1 billion in damages. Wow. That decision was partially overturned on appeal last year. The appeals court wrote in its ruling that while Cox was still on the hook for willful contributory infringement, it reversed the vicarious liability verdict, calling for a new trial on damages because Cox did not profit from its subscribers' acts of infringement, a legal prerequisite for vicarious liability. Specifically, the music companies originally accused Cox of ignoring notices sent to it regarding its customers' copyright infringements and allowing those customers to continue using its internet service despite these notices. The amount is unjust and excessive, Cox responded at the time.
Yeah, the fact that they're going after an internet service provider, I mean, this just opens the door for going after like Facebook for speech and other things like this. I don't necessarily like this lawsuit siding with the record companies themselves. So you have to go directly after the people that are actually pirating the merchandise, not the internet service provider. Otherwise, that's going to make internet service costs go up for everybody. And how much control do they really have over this? Okay, let's go into, I believe we have Lululemon is next.
Mm-hmm. So from Axios, Lululemon sues Costco Wholesale for selling alleged dupes.
And before we go into the story, we're from Vancouver, or we used to be. We now live in Mexico City. But Lululemon is actually based out of Vancouver, or was originally founded out of Vancouver. I used to do photos, high school photos and stuff for a company that went in there to do grad photos and stuff. And God, I can't remember the founder's name, but his kids used to go to that school. Chip Wilson. Yeah, Chip Wilson went to his kids went to one of the schools I did grad photos for. But you would hear all the office workers and stuff talking about Chip Wilson. They actually loved the guy. And it was a big controversy because he said Lululemon wasn't made for fat chicks. And whatever. I mean, nobody really, okay, we'll kind of leave it at that. But yeah, people actually did like Chip Wilson at the school. I was surprised because Vancouver is a very woke place, and especially North Vancouver, where that school was based out of, is very woke. But no, everybody really liked him. So... Okay, let's go into this particular article, though.
Lululemon is suing Costco Wholesale, accusing the retailer of selling cheaper, unauthorized imitations of some of its popular clothing items. The lawsuit could signal a pushback from original creators trying to reclaim control over their product designs despite the dupe economy thriving on social media. Costco didn't immediately respond to Axios' request for comment. In the lawsuit filed last week in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, Lululemon alleges that Costco has infringed on its patents by selling athleisure products that closely resemble its own. Lululemon claims that Costco's Kirkland brand and other brands the retailer sells are offering knockoff versions of its products, such as the scuba hoodies, the fine jackets.
Lululemon is overpriced, and that's just so...
Now it is, yeah.
Costco's going to their manufacturers and saying, take off the Lululemon thing and slap on a Costco logo, and... I don't know if anything's really wrong with that. So it's Chinese manufactured. This is happening in the high-end purse industry and a lot of other industries in China since this tariff war has come up.
Because the problem with Lululemon is that they used to be very different and high quality, and that's what made them, strong. But once Chip Wilson left and all the controversy happened, they started going to cheaper and cheaper manufacturing and lost the thing that people liked, and the quality just went down. So now, of course, Costco's going to be able to copy it and even be the same but cheaper because they decided to go the cheaper route and not focus on what people actually liked about their clothes, which was quality.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, let's go into this piracy story. We're going to clip this, so why don't you set up the clipping and let me know when you're ready. And we'll go to the main shot. Perfect. And let me know when you're ready and we'll get into it.
You're good.
Okay. Has streaming brought piracy back? There, I got it. Okay, let's get right into this article and talk a little bit about piracy and what's going on with streaming. And that will kind of bring us into what's going on with YouTube, the cornering and stuff like that.
So has streaming brought piracy back from Movie Guide? A new study revealed the shocking rise of piracy as millions of people turn to illegal streaming rather than paying for a library of content when they only want to watch one show. While piracy has always been around, the practice lost popularity in the 2010s when streaming offered an affordable alternative to cable while also allowing users to watch the shows and movies of their choice on demand.
Yeah, let's kind of stop it there for a sec. And I remember I came from the era of piracy, and piracy used to be huge. This was in the era of when Netflix was just coming up through the mail. Blockbusters had an alternative service where you would trade DVDs through the mail and things like that. And that was the era where piracy and online streaming was getting huge. What's happened now, I just feel like Netflix offers such a convenience. Apple with their algorithm, how everything's arranged, you don't really have to think. You just kind of click in and choose your series or your show or anything like that. You can also watch the trailer. That being said, the issue is there's too many streaming services now. So what was once convenient is not as convenient anymore. All the different shows and IPs are spread against so many different platforms. Very often, I don't want to sign up for a new platform just because I want one piece of content. Okay, let's continue here.
Unfortunately, as streaming prices have skyrocketed and more services have spread out the popular content, piracy's popularity has exploded once again. Market demands to make streaming services profitable have caused most of their owners to introduce ad-supported tiers and raise prices. Add to that the difficulty in finding a given title that you want to watch. There are many services, but no single directory for identifying which service a title is on.
Okay, let's stop it right there. And that's very true. If I want to find a piece of content, it's very hard. I go to Google, I go through X, and eventually I can figure out what streaming services it's on. But if I don't already have that streaming service, I very don't often want to sign up for it. Also, the amount of ads is getting crazy, not just on streaming services like Netflix, but also on YouTube. You have to pay top tier if you want no ads. They have smaller service on YouTube with a smaller fee where you still do get limited ads, which is absolutely crazy. The amount of ads they're putting into these things, I already pay for the streaming services. I don't want ads on top of it.
And if you do want to find a piece of content, there is a page, I believe it's called Just Watch, that tells you where and in what country you are and where it's streaming on.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, let's continue with this.
This confluence of events has led many consumers back to the use of piracy sites. Attorney Rob Rosenberg, ex-Showtime Network's executive vice president, said last fall. According to a new study, pirated content receives over 230 billion views per year, costing distributors upwards of $71 billion and studios up to $91 billion per year. Last year, 80% of all pirated content was distributed through illegal streaming sites.
Okay, let's pause it there for a second. And another problem that's happening here is these movie budgets are getting far too big, and there's not as many revenue streams in order to capitalize on these movies. So they bring it into movie theaters. That's one capitalization, but even movie theater are starting to contract. Box offices are typically getting smaller. From there, you used to have DVD and then streaming. Now there is no more DVD section. So it's going straight to streaming, and the streaming services the IPs are so divided. People aren't necessarily going to see it when it goes to streaming or sign up for the service just because it's on streaming. It's almost easier just to pirate that one piece of content. Not that I would ever do that.
And I also think it might be harder to prosecute, like to find even the people that are doing it or watching that content.
Well, do you know what the biggest download on the Pirate Bay used to be? The Pirate Bay. So the Pirate Bay itself was the biggest piece of content, so you could remake the site in case it was taken down. Yeah.
Interesting. According to news last year, 80% of all pirated content was distributed through illegal streaming sites.
Oh, 1 second. Yeah, so that's why I was going to add. They got rid of DVD sales. There are no more DVDs. So you have theaters. Then you're going straight to streaming. So they're trying to find another way to capitalize on that, which is advertising within the streaming. I wouldn't be surprised if they put advertising in the theaters pretty soon. Okay, let's continue. Sorry about that.
The U.S. was the country's most guilty of piracy, with 17.38 billion visits to piracy sites occurring in America, followed by Russia, India, France, and Turkey. The U.K. also landed in the top 10 countries despite a slew of strong anti-piracy laws. Movies and TV shows are not the only piece of content suffering from the rise of piracy. The music industry lost 73.9 billion views due to illegal streaming, with the loss of revenue costing the industry an estimated...
Hold it there for a second. And the music industry isn't struggling as much as the movie industry because there is a monopolization with Spotify. With Spotify, people just sign up for that one service and they have almost all the music. With movies and movie streaming services, the IPs are divided between everything. So it's no longer convenient. It's becoming an advertising nightmare. With music, they're kind of lucky there is a monopoly with Spotify and with Apple Music and things like this. So there's only a couple real distributors you have to go through.
So while piracy used to be a young man's game, the average demographic being a male aged 16 to 24, it has recently gained popularity with older audiences. Millennials in particular have normalized the activity, and the average age of pirate is now 25 to 34.
Okay, and let's also talk about the other thing they had just said there a moment ago. Piracy outside of the U.S. Piracy outside of the U.S. is absolutely huge, especially in India. A lot of countries that necessarily can't afford to pay full price or what the U.S. would pay for these things. I watch a lot of YouTube where people go through these Indian markets, and video games are massively pirated in India. You have these consoles with 5,000 games built in on the one console for like $20. So countries that can't necessarily afford what these movie studios and things expect them to pay are going to just pirate it. And that's where a lot of the technology comes from. And so the technology is already well developed by the time it comes to the U.S.
And here in Mexico, it's also pretty big in the markets and stuff. They still sell DVDs.
Any poorer countries that you have are gonna have more piracy within those countries. Period.
And meanwhile, books have experienced a major influx of piracy as well, with people aged 30 to 44 most likely to engage in the act. People want to watch what they want when they want it and don't want to have to subscribe to 20 different sites or pay exorbitant rates to be able to do that. Gareth Barkin, a media anthropologist and professor at the University of Puget Sound, explained in 2023.
Okay, so that's piracy for you. Piracy is becoming an issue again. I think it's going to continue to grow. When I was actually looking into the story, I was looking at Netflix, and Netflix was very interesting because the original series that they're making, they have studios all around the world, are typically smaller, and because they don't go into theaters, they don't have as much name exposure, so they're far less pirated. Also, Netflix has put a research groups together to kind of research what people are pirating so they don't make content like that. So they want to stay away from the genres and things like that are being pirated. Netflix has really set themselves up well for piracy. Why? Because they don't really mind if it's one of the studios that doesn't mind if there is piracy, because it's going to hurt all the other studios far more than it's going to hurt them because of the way they're making content and the kinds of content they are making.
But they do make it a little bit harder, at least. For example, to screenshot or screen record any of their content, it just pauses and turns black automatically. So, I mean, there are ways to hack it. I'm not going to talk
Nobody's
about
worried nobody's worried at Netflix about piracy. I kind of just said that in the research that I did. They're not, most of their movies aren't in theaters because a movie that goes to theaters has major marketing behind it, $100 or $200 million. So people are going to take time to go find how to pirate that movie and things like that. With Netflix, they're not getting that kind of publicity. So people don't even know these movies are on Netflix unless they're subscribed. So their piracy is much less than any other distributor. Okay, that's good. I think we're good for today, actually.
the quartering. Do you want to go into the quartering?
No, it's fine.
But that's on the cover.
Oh, okay. Okay, the quartering and the future of YouTube. Let's get into this. And did you have a picture of the quartering or anything like this?
Yes.
And you talked about this on WDW Pro the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you guys say?
Well, that he's one of the creators that's coming out and saying that he's worried about the direction YouTube is going in, and a lot of, I wouldn't call them conspiracy theories, but theories about why the YouTube maybe algorithm is changing or what their priorities are changing towards.
Yeah, and would you have anything else about this?
Well, the fact that apparently YouTube is now trying to almost compete with creators that mostly talk entertainment, news, and politics by bringing in and highlighting traditional media that's now trying to enter the YouTube market and kind of leaving their original creators and the people that actually build something on the platform behind by just highlighting the traditional media.
Well, yeah, you're having mainstream media and AI come in. I think those are the major two competitors within the space. It's very important for independent creators to kind of work together. We've been making a lot of guest appearances and things like that. Just recently, we've started doing that. And I think it's important for mid-level creators or large creators to bring other creators on that are smaller, kind of hopefully build them up. Maybe they'll even get bigger than the shows that they're on. And then they'll give that, start to become an infrastructure of human creators that are all kind of supporting each other on this web. One helps one out, the other one gets bigger, then that one helps the original one out, stuff like that. This is going to really help, especially against AI and stuff like that. What I think is going to help against the mainstream media is really diversifying outside of just one genre. And I think a lot of YouTube creators and YouTube really has rewarded that for so long. Creators that are in multiple genres and things like that will be able to rely on multiple audiences in the future, perhaps.
And I also think a lot of these original, more newsy, independent media type content creators try to diversify maybe a little bit too much. And I'm speaking specifically about the quartering, but they stopped focusing as much on the actual content they were creating and improving the content, the looks, how it sees, how you look at it, and focusing more on, in case I get canceled kind of thing, I have more revenue streams. But at the same time, it hurt the content creation. And now they're having to compete with this traditional media in big studios and with big lights, etc.
Yeah, and I was trying to take a look at this story when I was putting it together from YouTube's perspective. And honestly, when I actually looked at it from YouTube's perspective, it was a little bit obvious why they were kind of going to mainstream media, or maybe why they are. And it kind of hurts me as a content creator. But when I look at it from their side, the biggest content creators like Tim Pool, The Quartering, Viva Fry, whoever it was, during the era of censorship with YouTube, they all diversified it, and either they went to locals, they went to Rumble, they made their own website, they made sure they were diversified, and YouTube would have looked at that as a lot of their biggest names and their brands or name brands that are on their site were kind of leaving them. And what happens if all these people leave them en masse for another site? Or are they just going to keep building creators that are going to leave them for their own website? The mainstream media is never going to leave them. They're going to pay a lot of money to be on that site. So maybe it's a better business model for YouTube. At least from YouTube's perspective, I could see if they seen a huge influx of creators trying to diversify, that they would see that as possibly a bad business model for them.
But that was self-inflicted. They were the ones that did all the censorship.
Yeah, no, I agree it was self-inflicted, but I also agree that if they're seeing that, they want to kind of maybe hedge their bets. So go for mainstream media and content creators. But if mainstream media is also going to pay them hundreds of millions of dollars to be on there and stuff like this, well, they're going to give more of the market share to the mainstream media, I would think. And then also AI, they can keep 100% of the ad revenue if they make their own AI videos, such as Google.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and they also see that TV is slowly ending. I mean, it's been ending for a long time now, but I think they see an opportunity to continue that, but on YouTube.
Yeah, I was also seeing somebody that was working for YouTube that was privy to their long-term discussions about how they wanted to kind of lay out the site going forward, and they want to go much more geared to higher end content, better produced content, things like this, and really have more of a Netflix style layout. So I think they want to transition to that over a long period of time so they don't scare off their users, but we'll kind of see what happens.
But I think that completely loses the idea of what YouTube is. It's supposed to be people creating stuff on their own, and that's how it started, with people talking just in their bedrooms, teaching you how to do stuff, and it's lost a lot of that soul as well. So I think people and viewers also notice that.
Yeah, but from YouTube's perspective, what are they actually doing? Where does YouTube make their money? Ad revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to appeal to advertisers. How you appeal to advertisers is with a diverse form of content, mainstream media, YouTube creators, and highly produced content. So they dominate in the creator space, but they're probably thinking diversification will hedge their bets depending on where the market's going to go.
And I think
I don't agree with that. I mean, I'm a content creator, so obviously I'm against AI, big mainstream media, and I want no censorship. But I'm just giving their arguments from their side of the coin here.
And I think they lost as soon as they went full on to the Mr. Beastification of YouTube. And everything started becoming clones, and there was no creative or interesting even content. Everything became the same. Pranks. Just give the people what's most viewed and what's like you don't have to think about what you're watching. You just watch it, and it's all big explosions and big this and that and money and.
Yeah, and I'll disagree. They haven't lost. If anything, they're winning bigger than anybody else. They're winning bigger than Netflix, bigger than Amazon. People that aren't even in the space that you would think would naturally be bigger than them, other streaming services. YouTube is far bigger than them. They have far better growth. They can transition the market or pivot in the market in any direction, the same direction as Netflix or away to independent content creators or mainstream. So they're the best positioned of every streaming service that is out there. So
I mean, they lost their soul. They lost their purpose.
We'll see. We'll kind of see what happens. I think they're in a transition phase right now, and I just hope they don't transition into big mainstream media, stuff like that. And I think there'll always be a room for creators on YouTube.
Hopefully.
But if they do go really into mainstream media and AI, that's going to leave a huge hole in the market, especially with AI. If too much AI gets on YouTube, there could be a huge backlash against it. Mm-hmm. And if another service comes in that says it's all human creators, it would have to be something that already has a user base, like a Rumble, like an X or something like that. X would obviously need to change their platform a little bit.
Well, they have Grok, so I don't think they'd ever want to move away from the whole AI thing. But I do think or even a new service almost that only like literally just promotes human-made content could get really big. That's actually a good business idea in general.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know Jeremy's trying to push Rumble in that direction. Rumble is maybe likely to do it. Especially the first content creators that are going to find the axe on YouTube because YouTube's owned by Google and Google is training their AI from their YouTube videos is how-to videos. How-to videos typically show up on Google searches and things like that. They're going to have AI Google made videos. So I would expect how-to creators to be the first to kind of get the axe from YouTube because of AI. That's the one thing Rumble is really lacking. So if Rumble really promotes these how-to content creators and kind of brings them over, much like they did free speech political users in their original drive. As AI takes over more and more segments on YouTube, if Rumble would kind of come in, swoop up those creators and promote them on their platform, that also would create that. Rumble also needs to fix their platform. They have bad user interface for not only their users, but their content creators. We use Rumble and man, it's like pulling teeth trying to get subscribers over there because it's just not promoted in the algorithms or anything like that.
Yes.
Okay, maybe we can go into a little bit of production talk before we call it a day here. And I was going to talk a little bit about these different editing boards. So I got 3 of them here I'm going to kind of show today. This one is for like DaVinci Resolve. It's a multicam editor. It's also a timeline editor. It can do quite a bit, but it's exclusively for DaVinci Resolve. It won't work outside of that. This one actually does work fairly well. I have another one here, a much larger one I'll show you.
And they're from Blackmagic, who are the creators of DaVinci Resolve, the editing software.
So this would be a color grading board, something like this. This is very niche. It's going to work only in DaVinci Resolve, and it's only going to work on your color page, things like that. The other one is much more versatile. It's much cheaper as well. I got this because I got quite a good deal on it. Although all my editing boards I bought used. I lived in Vancouver at the time, and there are a lot of people that try YouTube or video editing, don't like it, and you can find these boards for fairly cheap. That's why I have so many, because I wouldn't have paid full price for these things otherwise. Now, that being said, this editing board is having revived interest for me because I no longer, let me put it down for a sec. Oh, that thing's heavy. I no longer use Adobe or Photoshop, Adobe and Lightroom because of the monthly licensing fee for photo editing. And I was seeing a lot of people editing their photos in DaVinci Resolve right now. I typically use Luminar, but I want to learn more color grading. But an easy way to do that would be to edit photos within DaVinci Resolve. You would edit just like you would do your films, but it would be a still image. And I already own the board. So actually learning color grading through editing still images in DaVinci Resolve, it's something that has brought that board more appeal to me. I actually haven't used that board that much. I was lucky I kind of got a deal on it. That's why I have it. But when you're doing YouTube and a lot of creation every single day, you don't have time to necessarily color grade everything perfectly and stuff like that. And when you do, you can actually, if you're doing a talking head like this and it's the same lighting and everything else, you can do a preset so you can bring it in there. Also, I'm not big on editing. Nat does a lot of the editing. So one of the best kind of the 2 switcher boards I show you, there's a little third one here, and it's called Stream Deck. This is the one most people would probably know, and you can actually program all these buttons to do different kind of hotkeys for any program you want. It's very versatile because it works in any program. I would say this is the best one. I would get the XL version, which is a little bit bigger than this. But if I was going to recommend one of these boards that I showed you today, I would say this one is probably the best.
And that one you can also like change cameras with. You can stop recording.
So for live streaming, we can use this for live streaming, not just editing. Sorry, you can continue.
No, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay, yeah. So with our, we have a little ATEM switcher. We can program all the camera buttons into this if we want any graphics to come up on the screen. So this one is extremely, extremely versatile. The nicest thing about this little one is this little wheel here lets you go forward and back on the timeline. There's a lot of different versions of this. So would I recommend buying any of these boards? Probably not. I would probably definitely recommend buying a Stream Deck. This thing is just simple, stupid, easy to use. Unless you're doing a ton of editing on a daily basis and you're really going to put the time in to learn these things, then I would recommend one of these. But for the most part, a Stream Deck, it's just easy to program, easy to learn. And I'm not very tech savvy, and I have a bad memory, so I can't remember buttons. That Stream Deck is really gold. So I think that's it for today.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you at night. Or we'll see you at night.
If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. And yeah.